separating me from my child, but she still went ahead with her empty threats. Her response was astonishing. She boldly stated that she'd take my baby anyway, implying that she has the right to make decisions about my child. I swiftly texted my husband, instructing him to come home immediately and let himself in. I made it clear that I wouldn't be intimidated by my mother's words, and that I'd take action to find a new babysitter who meets our financial needs. Her aggressive stance has backfired. She's been put firmly in her place. Rant over TLDR. A mother threatened to take her child away due to messy living conditions, sparking a confrontation that ultimately put her in a difficult position. I pulled a gun on a man who threatened to kill me. I'm a groundskeeper for an apartment, and on this day I was walking the grounds for dog poop, and this man starts yelling at me and walking towards me, accusing me of eyeballing his wife. I have no idea who this guy or his W. While on the job as a groundskeeper, I encountered a volatile situation. While patrolling the grounds to collect dog waste, a stranger began aggressively approaching me, shouting at me and claiming I was staring at his wife. Although I had no knowledge of this individual or his wife, I continued walking, trying to de-escalate the situation. However, the man continued to pursue me, his anger intensifying. He began taunting me, implying I was a tough individual, and ultimately made a chilling threat: "I'll fucking kill you." Fearing for my safety, I took a few steps back, but he continued to follow. At this point, I drew my firearm and slowly retreated, which prompted him to cease his pursuit. Given this unsettling incident, I am seeking advice on the best course of action. I keep wondering why parents have children when their own lives are really not stable, my parents being the same. They weren't financially stable, they weren't in a good place mentally, and they were in a toxic arranged marriage, both suffering from each other. The word toxic it's a haunting thought that many parents bring children into the world despite the turmoil in their own lives. Their own struggles for stability, both financially and emotionally, often seem to be a distant priority. In my own family, my parents' situation was no different. Their union, while initially arranged, had long since deteriorated into a toxic partnership where both parties suffered at the hands of the other. This term is often bandied about, but I've witnessed firsthand the corrosive effects of their relationship. It's a painful reality that I've come to acknowledge. I implore those who find themselves in similar situations, for the sake of your children, take a step back and reevaluate your circumstances. Bringing another life into a world where love, stability, and security are lacking would only serve to sentence them to a long, arduous journey of struggle and hardship, a prospect that's both heart-wrenching and unbearable, especially in the formative years of their lives. Edit. None update. None TLDR. Think twice before having children, especially if you're not emotionally or financially stable. NMOM posted on social media that I died. I can't make this shit up. My NMOM posted on both Facebook and Instagram. It's with a very heavy heart that I have to say goodbye to my baby girl. The hole in my heart will forever remain shattered, with a ton of emojis. She even included a post on social media claimed I had passed away. I'm still trying to wrap my head around this. My non-mother posted on both Facebook and Instagram, stating with a somber tone, "I'm heartbroken to bid farewell to my dear child. A profound void in my heart will persist." The post was accompanied by a multitude of emojis and even featured a photo of me. I stumbled upon the news when my family members started bombarding me with frantic calls and texts. As a result, I've spent the day reassuring them that I'm very much alive. When I questioned my age-distant mother, she explained that this situation arose due to our strained relationship. She expressed the hope that one day we could reconnect and have a more positive bond. I'm left speechless by her words. I never took 12th grade English. I was taking a program where you get all your coursework in a packet, and the English teacher was something like 70 years old. I basically screwed around all year and did nothing in that class. It was getting towards the end of the year, and Soma. Growing up without formal instruction in 12th grade English had its consequences. I was enrolled in a specialized program that packaged all coursework into a single package. The elderly English teacher, who appeared to be in her early 70s, oversaw the class. For an entire school year, I managed to coast through without making significant academic progress. As the academic year drew to a close, I concocted a convincing narrative to the teacher, successfully convincing her that I had completed the coursework and was ready for the final exam. This deception eventually reached the principal's office, but I remained steadfast in my fabricated story. Miraculously, the teacher's recollection of my work improved dramatically, and I was awarded an A- at the end of the semester. A valuable lesson learned from this experience is the importance of sticking to your story and maintaining confidence in the face of adversity. We always eat our chicken breast medium rare. JN's stepmom served pink chicken. I cut into it and noticed it was really pink and cold in the middle and refused to eat it. She decided I was a snobby brat who didn't know anything about food. Shouted, "We always eat our chicken brie." A culinary preference runs deep in our family. We love our chicken breast cooked to a delicate medium rare. My stepmother proudly presented me with a dish featuring pink chicken. As I took my first bite, I noticed the chicken remained cold and pink in the center, which immediately turned me off. Her reaction was anything but understanding. Instead, she labeled me as a snobbish, food-ignorant brat. Insisting, "We always eat our chicken breast medium rare. We prefer it that way." Her tone conveyed a sense of superiority, and her words were laced with annoyance. My sister, a nurse by profession, witnessed the scene unfold and quickly sprang into action, gathering the plates to give the chicken a bit more cooking time. The tension lingered in the air for weeks to come. Since then, I've only been able to stomach food at their home when prepared by my sister, who has a hidden talent for whipping up a delectable strawberry pretzel salad. Edit: the original story is likely written from the perspective of a teenager, possibly embarrassed by their stepmother's cooking skills. The narrative revolves around a humorous, yet slightly awkward, family situation. The story showcases the stepsister's kindness and cooking abilities. Update: AITA told wife to fill up gas in our car. My 27M wife, 25F, says my car is our car, although she never fills up the gas after using it, doesn't take it for servicing, doesn't even clean it when it gets dirty. Today, while we were returning home from work, I asked her to go. Is it fair to expect my wife to contribute equally to our shared vehicle? My wife and I have a car that we both use, but she claims it's ours, despite not taking any responsibility for its maintenance. She never fills up the gas, doesn't schedule servicing, and leaves it dirty until I clean it. The other day, I asked her to stop at the gas station after work, but she declined, citing her tiredness from the cold. She also claimed that since it's our car, it's my responsibility to fill up the gas. I pointed out that she uses the car without hesitation, yet it's only mine when it comes to maintenance. She became upset, accusing me of being petty over a small issue. Is it unfair to expect her to contribute equally to our shared vehicle? Drink up, Satan. My mill demands we have coffee creamer and certain dryer sheets when she comes to visit. We happen to be out of both, so my husband calls me and asks me to grab them on my way home. Since I happen to know which type of both she expects, I told my husband IWOU. The devil take the coffee. My mother-in-law insists that we have specific coffee creamer and dryer sheets on hand for her visits. Unfortunately, we were out of both, prompting my husband to call me and ask me to pick them up on my way home. I knew exactly which types she prefers, but I also knew her preferences are a bit eccentric. So, I decided to play a little trick on her. When I stopped at the store, I picked up the exact opposite of what she likes. When my husband saw that I'd gotten the items, he thought I was being thoughtful and considerate. Little did he know, I was actually pulling off a clever prank. My mother-in-law, however, was not as oblivious as I had hoped. I chuckled to myself as I imagined her morning coffee being less than satisfactory and her clothes being a static-filled mess. TLDR: I played a prank on my mother-in-law by getting the coffee creamer and dryer sheets she dislikes, and I'm secretly enjoying the thought of her miserable morning. TIFU: by getting into a fight with a fat naked guy the first travel quite a bit. I'm always moving from hotel to hotel and am at some point of recovery from jet lag. Flying into the States, I checked into my hotel and crashed out almost straight away. Waking during the night for a bat. I've learned a hard lesson after a series of hasty travels across the globe. After a long flight to the United States, I checked into my hotel, exhausted from the journey and struggling with lingering effects of jet lag. A midnight bathroom trip was the catalyst for a series of unfortunate events, as I stumbled back to my room to find an unexpected occupant. This obese individual was standing naked in the center of the room, making his way towards me. My groggy state, influenced by fatigue and disorientation, led me to react impulsively, lashing out with a wild, sweeping punch. The aftermath of my hasty action was a hefty $380 bill to replace a shattered mirror and a painful hand wound to show for it. TIFU by flashing the sweep for 30 minutes straight, posted as a comment in another sub, but just came across this sub and it seemed to fit. A few months ago, I, overweight middle-aged female, had the sweep out to do my chimney. Since we were social distancing, I sat on TIFU by flashing the sweep for 30 minutes straight, posted as a comment in another sub, but just came across this sub and it seemed to fit. I had a sweep visit to my home a few months ago. The experience was rather awkward, especially due to the social distancing measures we were following at the time. I had positioned myself at a safe distance from the sweep, seated at the edge of my sofa with my legs apart and elbows on my knees. The atmosphere was tense, with us both wearing masks and the sound of the vacuum dominating the conversation. The sweep wasn't very communicative, which left me somewhat unsatisfied with the service. I felt like he was in a hurry and didn't do a thorough job. I made a mental note to post a negative review on Google, as I wanted to warn others about my experience. It wasn't until I got ready for bed that evening that I discovered a significant tear in my pants at the crotch. To my embarrassment, I was not wearing any underwear at the time. As a result, the sweep was exposed to an awkward situation for an extended period, approximately 30 minutes. Despite the discomfort, he managed to maintain his professionalism. TLDR felt the sweep was rushed, only to discover AITA for telling my mom she's a whore? Throwaway, long-time lurker, first-time posting. I am the oldest daughter of 4 children. I'm currently 25, second oldest is 23, third is 20, and youngest is 18. When I was 8 years old, my mom had an affair with a family friend. Am I the asshole for telling my mom to stop being a promiscuous woman? Throwaway, long-time lurker, first-time posting. As the oldest of 4 siblings, I've grown up with a complicated relationship with my mother. I'm currently 25 years old, with my 23-year-old sister being the next oldest, followed by my 20-year-old sister, and then my 18-year-old brother. When I was just 8 years old, I witnessed my mom's infidelity with a family acquaintance. As the oldest child, I've retained memories of this painful experience, while my younger siblings only know of our family's dynamics from that point on. This traumatic event has strained my relationship with my mom, particularly given the fact that she cheated on my father while he was battling cancer. I remember seeing the two of them being intimate in public, which left me feeling bewildered and confused as a child. Years went by, and my mom eventually left my dad for this same man. However, their relationship was short-lived due to his own infidelity. After my dad's passing, I confronted my mom about her past actions during family therapy sessions, about 3 years ago. More recently, my mom confided in me that she bumped TIFU by permanently burning myself trying to connect with my recently deceased dad. This was actually a week ago, but the story starts before that. For the last 5 years, I've had an ice cream tub full of sugar in my kitchen. I emptied it into the tub rather than have the ball. I managed to thoroughly embarrass myself by trying to relive a past with my late father in a very misguided way. It all started several weeks ago, but the story begins with a peculiar habit of mine. I've had a large ice cream container filled with sugar in my kitchen for the past 5 years. When I bought it, I emptied the bag into the container to prevent the sugar from spilling when I used it. Since I don't use sugar frequently, the container has remained untouched, and I just dip into it when I need it. My girlfriend has always found this habit weird and was especially opposed to me bringing the container when we decided to move in together. "You have to get rid of that ridiculous sugar tub," she said. "But it's fine," I replied. "Sugar never expires." "It does, and it's been sitting there for years," she corrected me. I insisted on keeping the sugar, and it now resides in our baking cupboard as a point of personal pride. I'm curious to see how long it takes for the sugar to run out. Perhaps it will outlast me, at which point it will be inherited by my lovely, supportive, but also wrong girlfriend. Oh, fast forward to the past winter. My dad suddenly and unexpectedly AITA for kicking my sister out to the streets because she cannot take my F***ing violin playing. I am 30F, a musician, playing gigs and at an orchestra as a violinist. Rehearsals just resumed, so orchestra is my main source of income. ATM. My sister, 26F, is a social worker. W. Am I the asshole for kicking my sister out over the violin? As a 30-year-old female musician, I'm currently focusing on my career as a violinist, with gigs and an orchestra providing my primary source of income. My sister, 26, is a social worker, working part-time and relying on her job for minimal income. I live in a 2-bedroom apartment, utilizing the second room as a practice space for my instruments and other belongings. 4 months ago, my sister moved in after a breakup, and I made space for her by relocating most of my belongings to the living room. However, she continued to request that I move more items out, turning the living room into an uninhabitable space. The main point of contention between us has been my violin playing, which she claims gives her headaches. Despite explaining that daily practice is essential for maintaining my income, she insisted that I play only when she's not home. With her work schedule, this wasn't feasible, and the arguments escalated. I tried to find a compromise by switching to an electric violin, but the noise level was still a concern. Multiple reminders from me that the arrangement was temporary seemed to fall on deaf ears. The final straw was when she moved my piano to blowing a major aerospace company's mind with a foreign graduate degree. I worked for a big, American, technology and defense firm with tens of thousands of employees. A senior executive who had worked there successfully for years was caught with a falsification on his resume. A foreign doctorate stirs up trouble. I worked for a significant American technology and defense firm, employing tens of thousands of people. A high-ranking executive who had spent years working successfully was caught fabricating information on his resume. He was immediately let go, and the company implemented a new policy requiring all employees to sign a permission form allowing the company to verify their highest claimed degree with their respective colleges or universities. I hold a PhD from a well-established European institution, which I was confident would have no interest in responding to the company's inquiry. After signing the permission form, I attached a note warning the company that the university might disregard their request. Indeed, it did. A month or two passed with no response from the university, prompting HR to invite me in for a meeting. They explained that the university had not replied, as I predicted, but that corporate would accept a photocopy of my degree. I agreed to this. My PhD from the prestigious European university is a large, authentic parchment document, featuring a thick wax seal and written entirely in Latin. To meet corporate's requirements, I carefully photocopied the parchment, section by section, by sliding it across the photocopier window. The process took about 12 pages to previous post. This happened last night, and AMP X200B. This update is way more dramatic and unpleasant than I had hoped, but it is what it is. I read what you all wrote. Unhealthy obsession. A relationship red flag. I've reached my breaking point with my boyfriend, a 25-year-old who has an almost unrelenting obsession with a picky eating habit. Last night's events still linger in my mind, and I'm reflecting on what went wrong. I appreciate the thoughtful comments and advice I received from this community, which reinforced my concerns about his behavior and helped me realize I'm not being overly critical. We were out to dinner when he brought up his upcoming trip to Germany and how he'd need to find a supermarket to stock up on frozen pizzas to maintain his streak. I tried to bring up the issue one last time, suggesting he consider trying new German cuisine instead of prioritizing frozen pizzas. He flatly refused, claiming he couldn't let people down by abandoning his streak. I expressed my concerns about the impact this behavior has on our relationship and his overall health, but he downplayed it, saying I was being too nosy and needed to mind my own business. We continued to discuss the issue throughout dinner, with him insisting his health is fine and that I'm being a control freak. I explained how this obsession affects me, our social life, and potential future plans, but he seemed unwilling to listen. AITA for telling my wife I won't be as stressed out next year because I won't be married to her? I've, 32M, been married to my wife Jen, 32F, for a little over 7 years now. Up until about 2 years ago, things were great. However, a disastrous move, a few family emergencies. Am I the asshole for telling my wife I won't be as stressed out next year because I won't be married to her? We've, 32M, been married to my wife Jen, 32F, for over 7 years, but our relationship has taken a drastic turn. Our financial situation is dire, with depleted savings, empty 401 kiloseconds, and a persistent cash flow problem. We're struggling to make ends meet, and our high cost of living area isn't helping. 2 years ago, we bought a 3-bedroom house, hoping to start a family, but our plans got put on hold due to our financial woes. Our decision to buy the house now feels like a costly mistake, especially considering our underpaid jobs and the area's exorbitant living costs. Last year, I told Jen that we needed to make significant changes to our financial situation. I insisted that we either sell the house or find higher-paying jobs. Jen initially resisted the idea of selling the house and finding new jobs, but eventually agreed to look for better-paying employment. Almost 6 months have passed, and I've recently signed an offer for a new job with a substantial pay increase. However, Jen has yet to make any progress in her job search. When I told her Meta at any point, the advice you're reading could be coming from someone too young to sign up for social media without parental permissions. This seems like a really weird meta post, but I just wanted to warn people that Captain Sparkles, a YouTuber with a high child, teenager. A disclaimer about the wisdom you find here. It's worth noting that the advice you may encounter on this platform could be coming from someone who is barely old enough to create an account without their parents' supervision. Recently, Captain Sparkles, a popular YouTuber with a substantial following of young viewers, devoted an entire episode to discussing this community. This attention is likely to attract new subscribers, including a significant number of teenagers and young adults. It's essential to remember that the advice you receive, particularly on sensitive topics like marriage and careers, might come from individuals who lack life experience. The thought of young people influencing life-changing decisions based on advice from someone who's still in school is unsettling. This post isn't meant to imply that teenagers never offer valuable insights. There are certainly individuals who possess more maturity and wisdom than some of their older peers. However, it's crucial to recognize the potential limitations of advice coming from a high schooler. Take everything you read here with a healthy dose of skepticism. Acknowledge that the opinions you're exposed to might be influenced by the writer's age and lack of experience. As the administrator of this community, I'm aware of the importance of being honest and acknowledging the potential for younger writers to offer guidance. While it's impossible to, I asked my boyfriend why he kept cheating on me. His answer completely broke me. Throwaway. So me, 30F, and my ex-boyfriend, 32M, were together for over 3 years. After 1 year of us being official, I discovered that he was cheating on me. I was devastated, but I also believe the harsh reality of deception. I finally broke free from my toxic relationship, but the memories of it still linger. My ex-boyfriend, who was 32, and I had been together for over 3 years. The initial betrayal happened after a year of being in an official relationship, and I thought I had given him a second chance when I forgave him. However, this act of forgiveness only led to a downward spiral in our relationship. Every time I discovered him cheating, which happened frequently, he would be honest with me about his infidelity. His candor made me believe that his actions weren't that severe, and I would give him another chance. This cycle continued for 2 years, until I reached my breaking point. A few days ago, I saw him creating a new dating profile and sexting other women on his phone, which was left charging on the nightstand in our bedroom. I was devastated, feeling as though I'd been punched in the gut. This wasn't the first time I'd caught him in the act, but it was the final blow. I confronted him, questioning his motives and the reasons behind his infidelity. He responded to my pleas for an explanation with a chilling statement. because I know that you won AITA for giving all of my coworkers a different reason for why I have missing fingers? I have 3 fingers missing on my dominant hand. It's fine, I can type and everything and even manage to tie my shoelaces most days, and on the days I can't, that's the dyspraxia. However, the curious case of my missing fingers and workplace dynamics. I work in an environment where my unique physical feature often garners attention. Born with a congenital condition, I have 3 missing fingers on my dominant hand. While this affects my daily life in subtle ways, such as tying shoelaces, it is manageable. However, the appearance is unusual and tends to pique people's curiosity, often leading to intrusive questions. My coworkers often stare before asking why I have missing fingers, which I find annoying. I usually address the issue head-on by sharing the truth, relying on the assumption that word will spread and others will understand my boundaries. However, this time, I decided to take a different approach. When a new colleague asked about my condition, I chose to create a humorous narrative and told them I had lost my fingers as a baby due to a peculiar incident. The next person who inquired was told a different story. I had allegedly cut them off with a plastic knife at a picnic, and so on. The goal was to have a lighthearted moment, but I did not expect my coworkers to take my tales seriously. To my surprise, they not only believed my outlandish explanations but also started arguing among themselves about the actual reason. TIFU by confessing my feelings for a friend. So you probably all had a person in your life with whom you wanted a relationship, but feared that if you've confessed then your already existing friendship would be over. So the story goes as I've received a vanishing picture on in. TIFU by falling for a friend's prank. There's probably someone in your life who you've secretly wanted a romantic relationship with, but you feared confessing might ruin the friendship. My story is about a friend on Instagram who sent me a vanishing picture with a mysterious letter and caption that read, "This is probably the most embarrassing thing I've ever written." I asked her what it was all about, and she revealed that she had written it for me because she had feelings for me, but was too afraid to confess. This revelation initially made me ecstatic, but my happiness was short-lived. After taking some time to think about a suitable response, I decided to write her a heartfelt letter. However, I didn't realize that my friend had a plan of her own. Her reaction was unexpected, as she confessed that the whole thing was just a prank and the letter she wrote was actually for someone she had a crush on a couple of years ago. Now, I'm left feeling uncertain and unsure of how to proceed, especially since she's one of my closest friends. TLDR, I was tricked into confessing my feelings by a friend who had been planning a prank on me. Edit. Since then, I haven't spoken to her as much, so I posted about a month ago about my sister requesting I wear a long-sleeve ankle-length black dress to her lakeside wedding in summer, while being 9 months pregnant, and I've gotten many requests to update. Well, my sister's summer lake wedding was a unique affair, with a dress code that left me feeling a bit stifled. A month ago, I posted about her request for all guests to wear long-sleeved, ankle-length black dresses, which, given my pregnancy and the sweltering summer heat, seemed more than a little challenging. Life had other plans, though, and my baby's early arrival took me by surprise. I was in the hospital when the wedding took place, and my sister was kind enough to be by my side as I welcomed our little one into the world. All is well, and I'm now the proud mom of a precious new addition. For those eagerly awaiting an update, I'll try to provide a more substantial account of the wedding. Despite her initial strictness on dress code, my sister did soften her stance a bit, allowing guests to wear more relaxed black attire. It was a redemption of sorts, and the photos turned out nicely, albeit a bit somber. She wanted black to add a touch of elegance to the proceedings, and she did look stunning, so mission accomplished in that regard. AITA for having a kid when my ex-wife is going through menopause? My ex-wife, 45F, and I, 43M, are in the process of divorce. She started to hate me during our last year of my marriage, along with mood swings, and just being shitty. Only thing I could think of at that time was am I the a-hole, AITA for having a child with my fiancé while my ex-wife is going through menopause and is in the process of a divorce? My ex-wife, 45F, and I, 43M, are currently navigating a divorce. Over the last year of our marriage, her behavior changed, and she became increasingly irritable. I initially thought that the hormonal fluctuations might be the cause of her mood swings, but she took offense when I suggested this. I encouraged her to see a doctor, but she refused. The situation escalated when she asked for a divorce after I gave her an ultimatum to seek professional help. She described me as a mediocre husband and stated that she was better off alone, citing my lack of exceptional qualities and financial security. I didn't contest her decision, and she filed the petition for divorce. However, months later, she suddenly withdrew the petition, expressing second thoughts. This led me to file for divorce myself after meeting a new woman, 36F, who showed genuine affection towards me. The separation seemed inevitable. It later transpired that my ex-wife's sister had encouraged her to see a doctor, where she was diagnosed with perimenopause and started hormone replacement therapy, HRT. Her TIFU by getting banned from the supermarket for trying to be nice. I took my 1-year-old daughter to the supermarket to buy some groceries like I normally do. My daughter was in a stroller where she can sit and see everything around her. At the checkout counter she grabbed one of the SW. A lesson in consequences. How trying to be nice led to a supermarket ban. I recently took my 1-year-old daughter to the supermarket to run some errands. As we navigated the aisles in her stroller, she caught sight of some sweets on display and, being the curious child she is, decided to grab one. Unbeknownst to me, she managed to sneak the sweet into her stroller, where she began to play with the plastic wrapper. It wasn't until we were at the checkout counter, and I was busy bagging our groceries, that I realized what had happened. By then, it was too late, and the sweet was beyond salvage. Feeling a sense of responsibility, I decided to do the right thing and return to the checkout counter to pay for the sweet. I explained the situation to the cashier, who seemed to appreciate my honesty. However, things took a turn for the